And I would say that we are, Kansas City is a hidden gem. People don't really, I think for a long time we were flyover country, and we're not that anymore. There's so much publicity in the last few years, specifically about how amazing Kansas City is, and I love that. So a lot of my most recent tours have been from people from out of town who said, "Hey, I read on Lonely Planet that KC is the top, in that top 10 list," or I read on Forbes about, some of the food stuff that was going on here. So there's great buzz about Kansas City that we've never really experienced in the past. So it's hard for me to tell, where we stand as far as other cities go, but I think that we're definitely it's a growing market for tour guides.
Hi there. Welcome to the Connecting KC podcast. I'm Rachel Kilmer, also known as Rach the Realtor on the internet, where I love, connecting all things KC. I'm a metro area real estate agent, retired sports reporter, and mom, and probably too old to call myself a TikToker, but honestly, that's how we got here. You can learn more at www.rachtherealtorkc.com. But this show is all about introducing you to all of the movers and shakers, interesting people, heartfelt stories, and funny quirks that make this vibrant community home. So let's get right to it with today's episode of Connecting KC. Welcome into today's episode of Connecting Kansas City, where I am so excited to be joined by Laura Miller, owner of Cowtown Tours. She has been leading groups on narrated walking and bus tours through KC since 2020. As a lifelong resident, she is passionate about her city and continually learning new things about the metro to share to visitors and locals alike. Laura's path to owning a small business was not linear nor quick. She spent the first 10 years of her career as an elementary music teacher in the Shawnee Mission School District before moving into the nonprofit world for another 15 years. So we're on the third career now. I can relate, and I'm only 31. Laura and her husband, Kelly, are avid travelers, having been to over 50 countries. When they travel, they always hire a local guide for the day. When COVID hit, she realized international travel was at a standstill and people were looking for staycation ideas closer to home. So people who would normally be spending their travel dollars abroad now were seeking fun and engaging activities, but in a safe, COVID-friendly setting at home. So what began in 2020 by offering 2 different walking tours has now evolved to 8 different walking tours, narrated sightseeing bus tours, private transportation tours, corporate employee onboarding tours, lectures, and now podcasts. Laura encourages you to join the herd and explore like a local. Laura, thank you for being here today.
Hi, Rachel. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm great. This is such fun timing because I am fresh off of a vacation abroad where I interacted with local guides there.
Oh, good. Did you do that?
Yes. Had a guide both in Munich and Cologne. And it's no one is a wealth of information on their city like someone that lives there and works there all day, every day. So I'm sure though, even though you've lived here your whole life, you get asked questions on tours every day that make you go, "Oh, I actually don't know the answer to that." Do you enjoy that like kind of lifelong learning process that comes with being a guide?
Yeah, 100%. And yes, I do get asked that question. I get asked questions almost every tour where I'm like, either I hadn't thought about that or I just learned that answer and I can give it to you. But I love that. I think the lifelong learning method of living is a really good one. I think that, for me, I started out as an elementary music teacher, as you said. And so education has always been sort of the core and at the very central piece of my entire career. Even though my career, like my bio said, my career has not been linear, education has always been at the very middle of it. So I love it when people ask me questions and I have to go back and do some research on it. Or if I just see something and I'm like, I don't know anything about that, I want to learn a little bit more about it and maybe, thread some new information into some of my existing tours. I love it.
Yeah, so awesome. What is the makeup? Like, what's your percentage breakdown of, locals that are taking your tours versus people visiting from out of town versus companies? What's the kind of what comprises of that?
I think it totally depends on the type of tour that I'm giving. So I do a lot of walking tour. So I do a lot of mix of tours. I would say most of my walking tours are local people. And then the bus tours that I do are, for the most part, groups that are either traveling through the city, and Kansas City is one of their stops, and they just want a 2 hour city tour, or it's a, yeah. So as far as a breakdown, I'd say I do more visitors than locals. Um, but I think it's always fun to have locals, because even lifelong residents here in Kansas City will do a tour and they'll be like, wow, you gave me something I had never seen before, or I heard something new that I'd never heard before. So I love doing it with both.
So great. So how do most people find you? Social media, your website? How do most people come across you?
Yeah, so that's evolved definitely for me. I started out about 4 years ago, and I was working through a third party vendor website. It's called toursbylocals.com, and they're everywhere, they're global. In fact, the way that I found them was that my husband and I were traveling in Italy, and we took a tour through a tour guide through Tours by Locals. It was back in 2013. And I came back that, after that trip, because the tour guide was phenomenal. I mean, he was so great. We learned things that we would never have known before, or been able just to do on our own. He just gave you great little tidbits. And I thought, because I'm geared this way, I thought, oh, I could do that. I'm a teacher. I'm a good researcher. I'm a good presenter. I could be a tour guide. So I came back to Kansas City, and I went onto the Tours by Locals website, and I saw that they didn't have any tour guides in Kansas City. So I sent them an email back in 2013, and I said, I'm a local tour guide, which I wasn't at the time. Um, but I said, I'm a local tour guide. I noticed that you don't have any tour guides in the area. How does one come about becoming one of your affiliated tour guides? And they came back right away. They were very pleasant. Their email came back, and they said, basically, nobody travels to Kansas City. That's not a market that's open to us. We're a global um, marketplace. And so I thought, well, okay, whatever. I was working, I was doing something else differently, and so I just kind of put it aside. I didn't think a whole lot about it. And then in 2020, when COVID hit, they reached back out to me. After 7 years, 2013 to 2020, they had kept my email address. They emailed me and said, well, now people are not really traveling. They're not even able to get onto an airplane to travel internationally. So now Kansas City is a market that's open to us. Are you still looking to partner with us? And so they made it super easy. I was able to use their website. I was able to handle all of my money through them, and just very quickly and easily get up to speed on delivering tours. And so the first 2 or 3 years, all of my leads came directly from that website. And last year, I just thought, why would I be giving away a part of my commission to another company when I think I can do this on my own? So I sort of, bit the bullet and decided, okay, I'm gonna try to be a business owner and start my own website, and start my social media, which I gotta admit, I have like 29 followers. I'm terrible at that part, but I'm growing it. So that's, yeah, I get most of my leads, going back to your question, I get most of my leads now straight off of my website, which is shocking to me. It's amazing. It just is like, you build it and they will come. And that's how in the last year, I've gotten the vast majority of it.
Do you enjoy the business side of it? I always think it's interesting. Everyone that runs a business doesn't, most people don't get into it to run a business. They get into it to do their thing. And then suddenly, oh, now I'm a business owner. How has that been for you?
It's painful. It's painful. It's not my deal. I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, I'm a performer, I'm a presenter. I love that. That's what I love to do. And yeah, I love to do that. Um, all of that back end piece, the starting the website, creating a logo. Like, I created my logo because the designers that I had worked with, just didn't give me what I wanted. And so I thought, well, gosh, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try to design a logo. And yeah, so all that back end stuff, the payments and the money piece, I would love to have a COO that just like handles all of that for me, but I'm it. So I'm learning. Yeah, I don't enjoy it, but I'm learning new skills.
It's part of the deal. Yeah. Well, your logo is amazing, by the way. I am obsessed with your logo and your branding. It's so good. Uh,
I love it. I love it. Yeah,
so
thanks.
cute. So are you looking to scale? Like, where do you see the future of this going?
Yeah. So currently, when people ask me, how busy are you? I say I'm as busy as I want to be, which is great because I got other stuff going on in my life. I travel quite a bit with my husband. We try to do about 3 trips a year. I also babysit my granddaughter, who's 2 years old. So I have her 2 days a week. I know she's amazing, Ruby. Um, and so, I'm working as much as I want to work currently. There are some things sort of running in the background in my head of how I'd like to scale it and what I'd like to do with it, but I'm going to sort of keep that to myself for a while until I can figure out if that's possible. But yeah, I'd like to. I would like to collaborate more with local businesses. I loved it with your group, Rachel, being able to do a tour with your group. It was super fun for me to meet your crowd, who are crazy, by the way. A fun group, but yeah, I love to collaborate with other people in the local area.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, we had for the listeners that didn't get to come, we're doing it again next year, which we got to coordinate on dates. But I had a client event where we rented out a bus and hired Laura and cruised around town, did a tour, and amazing feedback from everyone. They loved it. And I think Kansas City and maybe every city is like this, but Kansas City, there's no one that loves anything more than Kansas Cityans love Kansas City. So I think it's a uniquely set up, place to build a business like this because most of that bus was full of people that have lived in somewhere in the metro most of their lives, and we all felt like we learned something. So you talked to peers in other cities, and do we have a unique level of thirst for local information here?
Um, that's an interesting question. Because I love to do tours in other cities. I like to be the guest of a tour guide in another city, and we do a lot of that. And I would say that we are, Kansas City is a hidden gem. People don't really. I think for a long time we were flyover country, and we're not that anymore. There's so much publicity in the last few years, specifically about how amazing Kansas City is, and I love that. So a lot of my most recent tours have been from people from out of town who said, "Hey, I read on Lonely Planet that KC is the top, in that top 10 list," or I read on Forbes about, some of the food stuff that was going on here. So there's great buzz about Kansas City that we've never really experienced in the past. So it's hard for me to tell, where we stand as far as other cities go, but I think that we're definitely it's a growing market for tour guides. I do have a group of 3 other guides that we get together on a semi-regular basis just to chat about what's happening with their market, what are they seeing, what are they doing. And I love, we're all women, all 4 of us are women who just want to support each other. We all sort of do the same thing, but we all really have a different audience. We gravitate different audiences gravitate toward us depending on what our tours are showing. And so it doesn't feel competitive between the 4 of us. It's really a way to support each other.
Yeah, I love that. I feel that way about real estate. We're all competitors, but I always say there is enough for everyone. Like my people want me because they want me, and your people want you because they want you. So like, let's just cheer each other on, be the best version of ourselves, and it will all work out.
100%. Yes. Yeah. There's more than enough stuff to go around for all of us. So it's not competitive. Feels good. Feels really good.
Well, that's actually how I got connected to you was through Lisa with Urban Hikes. And I was really pleasantly surprised when she was like, I'm not available, but here's Laura. And I was like, wow, like that is amazing. And you guys, right, could not be more different. And even your branding and your marketing totally different. And you both serve a market that needs to be served.
Yeah. So actually, I'll name the 4 of us. So it's me, and then it's Lisa Pena with Urban Hikes KC, and she specializes in like 5 mile urban hikes, city hikes. So the people who gravitate towards me are gray haired like me. They're older people. They don't want to do a 5 mile hike. So we're not competing in that. And then there's Lori Ventura, who is owner of the City of Fountains KC tour. So she only does fountain tours. And her market is basically during fountain season. So it's from April until November. Um, and then Sherry Ortiz is the Just One Day travel tours. And she specializes in bus tours that are like day trips to surrounding areas. So we're all very different. And all of our marketing styles and, yeah, our websites, everything's different, but we are supporters of each other.
Oh, I literally like have goosebumps in my arm. I love that. I just,
So one other thing about that, Rachel, is last year we got together for the first time. We're like, should we do this? Should we get together? Is this the right thing to do or not? And immediately we felt like it was. And so the four of us created a website called things to do in kansascity.org. And so if you go, because people, when they're searching for things to do in Kansas City or Munich or Paris, wherever they are, that's what they type in, things to do in. And so we put that as our website, and it's just the four of us. So it highlights all four of us, and then whoever comes to that website can make their own decision based upon what it is that they're looking for.
I love that. It's awesome. Awesome. Have, who, like, what is the most interesting group that you've had that you're like, wow, I'm so surprised that you're here in Kansas City wanting to learn more about this city?
Your group was very interesting, by the way. uh, I had a group earlier this year. I had a group from mostly from New York City, but they were East Coast, and one guy from Portland, Oregon, who came on a museum and gallery tour. So they came specifically to see the museums of Kansas City and the galleries. And I had them for 2.5 days on bus tours. And then they left us, and then they went to Bentonville to do the same thing down in Bentonville, Arkansas. So um, that was fascinating because they were buyers. They were here looking for things at the galleries down in the crossroads. And I had the opportunity to talk to all the gallery owners prior as I was like creating the route. And for me, that was fascinating because it was a whole new niche for me, and it made me think about a whole new tour that I could create just based upon, because that was a request from another group. So they were pretty interesting. I also just recently had a group of Spanish speaking only veterinarians from South America. So that was super fun. It was a 56 passenger charter bus, and they were all here at a conference. And so I had an interpreter who was interpreting everything, which was a new experience for me to sort of, the pacing of it, um, and what would be interesting for them to learn about in Kansas City. So that two completely different things, but very interesting.
Yeah. How do you feel out kind of the vibes from a group when you like from booking to meeting with them? Because when I was on my tours in Germany, the- the guides clearly picked up on our vibes very soon on like, maybe like which way we can talk about politics or which way we can talk about history. And like, there's a really wide spectrum of things that people are comfortable with. And how have you kind of learned to feel that out and meet people where they are slash tell the truth about history even if it makes them a little bit uncomfortable?
That's the key, really. And it sounds like you had some really good and insightful tour guides. Not everybody is. So my priorities are to make an experience enjoyable. What are they looking for? What have they paid for? And so they're looking for the history of Kansas City or the murals of the crossroads or the architecture. They're looking for something very specific. So I always start there. As I always let a group guide me in terms of where else they want to go beyond that starting point. So regardless, I never introduce religion, politics, you know, social. I don't introduce that typically. The one exception to that is when we get to the 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 JC Nichols information. And when we're down on the plaza and we start talking about that, it's really important to talk about Kansas City's history. It's important to remember the names of the visionaries who really sort of developed our city as it was growing, the good and the bad. And to sometimes I have had pushback sometimes about, oh, we shouldn't be taking down monuments, we shouldn't be removing names from you know monuments or fountains or parkways. And the way that I respond to that is that I think it's important always to remember history, and that even if we decide as a city, the citizenry decides that a name needs to be changed in the J.C. Nichols Fountain, for example, that we still tell the story about him, about his vision, how he benefited the city, um, and also some of the things that are harder to hear. I think those are good things, because if we don't tell that story, it's going to get lost, and then you'll only have one side of the story or just a small part of it. And it's better to have as much information as you can get.
I feel like we're really bad at that as Americans. We want the best. We want to remember all the good, and we don't want to like linger on the bad. But having just returned from Germany, they're very good at sitting in the discomfort and being like, "We did this. This is an ugly part of our history, and we don't want it to happen again." So they make all of their school kids go to a concentration camp, and they're very they talk about it, not an every day, but it's like important to them. And I think as Americans, obviously we don't have that blemish on our history. We've definitely done things that are not cool, and we don't talk about it enough. So that is hard to navigate, though, when you're like with my group, for example, like we're just booze cruising, having a good time, but we got to talk about it too, So it's a really tough.
No, I think that that's exactly right, Rachel. Because, like, for instance, with your group that came on and they were there for a party, and that's awesome. I love the fact that that was the premise of it, and that was such a great gift that you gave to your clients. I love that. So yeah, like I said, I take every group as they come to me. I just try to meet them where they are at whatever they're trying to do. I knew with that group, I'm not going to force a ton. Like, there is not going to be a test at the end of any of my tours, you know. And the people who are interested, they can hear me over some of the chatter or the laughter that might be happening, next to them. So that never bothers me. Honestly, it just never bothers me. I'm being paid to do a job.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So awesome. Okay, last couple questions I'm going to ask, who I ask everyone that comes on the show. First one is, what is a great meal that you've had out and about recently in Kansas City?
Hmm. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't prepare for this question, because because I have listened to your podcast, and I'll say that my husband and I eat out way, way too much, like way too much, and so because we travel a lot, when we eat out, we want to have an experience that's sort of similar to that. So we try to always go local, as local as we can. We try to go small and intimate, and we try to go ethnic, because we like just a variety of food. And so for me, it's really hard to just sort of answer that question with only one restaurant. So I love tacos a lot. So if I'm eating Mexican, I love to go to on the west side, to Los Alamos Cocina, which is over by like West Side Story and um, oh, others up there. I love the French Market in Prairie Village. I love Bella Napoli for Italian in Brookside. Um, for Mediterranean, I love Holy Land Cafe in Lenexa. So yeah, there's just, I can't answer that question without giving a broader answer.
I love that. I love it's a list that's perfect because it speaks to your occupation. And I'm also a foodie, and I think that is another thing that Kansas City is such a hidden gem with is our food scene.
100%, yes. And coffee shops, amazing. I do get that question a lot, like, what's your favorite barbecue place? And so you'll notice I didn't have barbecue on my list. I'm a lifelong Kansas Citian, born and raised here, and I grew up on barbecue and on meat and potatoes. But when we go out for dinner, that we never go for barbecue.
Yeah, same. I don't know why. I do. It's like a football game food, or if I was visiting from out of town, but it's such a
Visitors,
heavy.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't usually just like go eat on a Tuesday necessarily, but uh yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, last question I'll ask you is where can people find you? Tell us this beautiful website and let's get your followers up to more than 29 wherever you are.
Yes, so cowtowntours.com is my website, and they can book directly onto any of my tours from there. And then my Instagram is Cowtown Tours KC. So yes, like and subscribe. Is that the right words to use?
Well, it's close. We'll go.
Okay.
We'll talk offline. We'll do some social media strategy there.
I need it. I need it desperately.
All right. Well, thank you for being here today and for what you're doing for our city and our visitors. It's such a cool thing. And what a moment to be doing what you're doing with where Kansas City is sitting right on the precipice of such growth. So,
Oh yeah, yeah, so much. Rachel's been great talking to you today, and it's been fun meeting you.
yeah, likewise, likewise. All right, guys, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.